Back here with the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's finally time, everyone. Settle in and arm yourselves. Because we are in for a fight! Oh, I remember you, alright. Don't you go thinking I forgot you bunch. They're charging us here. Oh, that didn't happen last time. Oh, good. Because I was worried, because, you know, the sages wouldn't reach me before, so I got a little anxious. We're unbeatable! I'm with you on that. I was going with the English subtitles there. In French, you just said you can count on me. I'm sure you will. So will I. They'll be so proud I played this video game slightly right. And won. Let's do it. Now, Riju, say something cool. Oh, you don't owe me anything. But I'm very happy to have you here. Mineru, maybe you could just turn off the electric can before we... Okay, cool. Let's do it. Yeah, try us. Try us. Oh, that's cool. That could be thumbnail material right there. Da-da-da-da. Bum, 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 bum. This might be my favorite piece in the game. I remember it from part 0, and man, it's just so cool. Alright, so we've got a huge fight with a whole bunch of the Demon King's army here. Let's try and keep our heads down and focus for it. I probably do want a flurry weapon on, actually, rather than this silly thing up front here. Because, why bother being silly about it? You big one, though. Come on. Do try it! Yeah! You thought. Oh, how much you thought you could bring me down with such a pitiably weak attack. Someone set you on fire. Oh, it was my spear. It's a fiery spear. Oh, royal broadsword. Definitely want that. Hang on, but maybe I'll wait till I'm not actively being punched to pick it up. Yeah! Oh, I'm messing with the timing for that. I got it one time, though, so I can stop trying now. Yeah, forget it. I'll just poke you with this. We're at the end of the game, after all. And so we said 3 or 4 hits with this takes you down, and the fire will bring the rest of you down. I think I don't have to do any more hits to that. Cool. Right now. Wow, it goes so much faster when you don't have to do it all by yourself. Oh, thank goodness. Have at you all. I'm actually kind of astonished that the frame rate is fine here, but it struggles in any little apple orchard. Go ham, everyone! You're doing a fabulous job! Oh, sorry, Riju. I had to pan over to you at a bad time. I'm sure you were doing much better than the rest of the fight. Am I allowed to drop my other weapons here? Oh, there's room. Okay, good. Let's get rid of these and see if I can get one of those royal ones. But not before they bring out their next wave. The Lizolfos. Tough opponents they are, but not quite as hard when you have a whole army of sages at your back, are they? Oh, this theme is so cool! I love it. I love it so much. Well, hey, if we're not going to actually lose these materials for our 100% run because the game's about to end, may as well put some really good materials on these. Whoa, calm down. What are you trying to hit me for? I thought we were friends. Whoa, I floored that. I was just kind of hoping maybe if I did a jump back flurge, I would dodge whatever's about to hit me. And it turns out I was right about that, so good job. What's next then? After the Lizolfos? Skibdo's time. We're experts with these. I actually recently learned it's not just fire and lightning that does them, but basically any element. So basically I can just throw Dazzle Fruit on them and bam, that's you. I guess I'm not going to have good luck flooring with you, so I may as well just go for one strikes on you. Oh, that Dazzle Fruit took a whole bunch of them out. Look at this. Hey, wait, hang on. Maybe if we could just revisit that Dazzle Fruit thing. Oh, splash it off ya. Wonk. Water brings you down too, because there's really nothing these guys aren't weak to. You can probably floor that when they dive towards you like that, but I wasn't very good enough to. Ow! Mineru, what did I tell you about doing that? I really got to mount up and get that arm off for her before it's been too much farther in this. Mineru, please stop doing that thing. Just put like a bone on that right hand. Good. Okay, there we go. Oh, that was all. Okay, I couldn't see your health bar. Sorry, because it went down so fast. You're going for the same move? Come on, swing it. You won't. You're too scared. You all could be maybe taken down by like 1 or 2 strikes here, so let's just finish it off. All right. Now in part 0, after that, then you had to fight all the bosses of the normal things. You had to fight the Muktarok and the Goma. and all that stuff. But fortunately, we don't have to do that here.
On dirait les émanations du roi démon. Alors c'est là-bas qu'il se cache.
You're right. Oh wait, maybe we do have to refight all of them here as well. Oh, or is it going to be a thing of like they're going to stay behind to hold these ones back?
Maudit soit-il, il a ramené ces créatures à la vie. Mais s'il croit que ça suffira à nous arrêter, il se trompe.
You guys have fought these before. You know how to handle them.
Nous avons chacun un compte à régler avec un de ces monstres. Tu n'as pas besoin de t'en mêler, Link.
Link, vas-y, pars devant. On va se charger d'eux.
10-4.
Faut voir de quoi les sages sont
You guys have fought
capables.
these before. You know how to do them. Hey, we fought them together. You saw.
C'est des ennemis qu'on a déjà battus.
Yeah, you got this.
Enfant, tu peux me croire.
I have the utmost faith in you.
Va, Link, je t'en prie.
I'm going. Don't worry. As soon as you guys stop talking, I'll go. Oh, never mind. You got caved in, so okay. Even if I wanted to help. Well, Ganon, looks like it's just you and me. What's with all the puffiness on the ground? I think it's time I brought out the Master Sword for you, friend. Just for you. I'm putting a tomato on the end of it. Nothing to hold back now, folks. Well, well, well. Look who it is.
Comme c'est pathétique.
Oh, is it?
Le monde qui devrait être plongé dans les ténèbres est baigné d'une détestable lumière. Les êtres qui le peuplent se complaisent dans la paix et la tranquillité lâches qu'ils sont. Au moins par le passé, ils faisaient encore preuve de ténacité.
Stole the words right out of my mouth, punk. You don't scare me, you and your scary eyes. Damn it, I called them scary. No more illusions. You fight me here and now. But for sure, first stop and have a hydration break. That we all need that from time to time. Just because you're a villain doesn't mean you should neglect your self-care now. Oh, he looks so freaking dope! I love this iteration of Ganondorf. He just looks so menacing, but like also badass at the same time.
Il est temps de rendre à ce royaume l'apparence qui doit être la sienne.
Is it time? Can it wait a
Ma
bit?
loi sur le monde, je vais le subjuguer. Comme il sied au souverain.
That, no, disagree. The menace unleashed.
Demon King Ganondorf.
Yep. A delicate little hop down. Didn't even do like a front flip or go like, hurrah! And like, super yo land it.
Ouvre grand les yeux.
They're wide open.
Le véritable roi renaît. Sois témoin de l'avènement de son monde.
Okay, neat. Oh, hey, whoa, you're starting already. Whoa, hang on. Smile. Hang on. Whoa, it looks like you're about to do your vertical slide. I wanted to read about you in the book first. Hang on. Demon King Ganondorf, an evil man who lived long ago in the era of Hyrule's founding. He was imprisoned beneath Hyrule Castle for ages, but the magic weakened and his power has steadily been growing since. Now he is revived as a threat beyond the knowledge of any. A master of every known weapon, he will not hesitate to crush any foe who stands in his way. Every known weapon? I don't think he's fought with a tomato sword before. I'd like to see him challenge me in the arts of... Oh boy, hang on, wait. I'm messing up the floor one time. Just calm down. 2 seconds. Wait, give me 2 seconds to get it right. Tomatoes! I know how this goes. Don't worry. I fought all your offenses before, and even you before, in another lifetime when I didn't have very many clothes or weapons. This should go even easier. No Master Sword I had then. Ah, try it. Look, I'm in slow motion like, whoa, how'd you get on that side of me? Yeah, come on. Come on, bring it. What more have you got? Yeah, go. You go, you're the only one who can do a flurry rush. I can hit you with a whole bunch of times too. Tomato sword! You didn't even get a chance to show off your third weapon. How pitiable. How the mighty fall. What do you have to say to that?
Cette sensation m'a manqué.
You missed it, did you?
Mon sang bouillonne et mes muscles palpitent. Mon corps entier réclame
I've missed
davantage
you.
de pouvoir. Chacune de mes cellules tremble sous l'aiguillon de cette soif inextinguible.
Oh, it can be quenched, all right. I'll show you just how quenchable your thirst is. Demon King Ganondorf, master of the Secret Stone. Deja vu, I've just been in this place before. When I tell you I freaked out the first time I saw that. You scoundrel!
Il est temps d'en finir.
It's time, all right. Now I agree it's time.
Et cette fois-ci, je ne me contenterai pas de tes bras.
You think that you can just kill the hottest rulers this country has ever had and get away with it? Tomatoes! I will tomato you into— Whoa, calm down. We don't need to do that, do we? Okay, hang on, wait. You are? Oh, neat. Why did that take me out of the menu for you to say that? Listen. Ganon, whoa, sorry. Let's calm it down just a moment here. I said calm it down, please. Ah, it broke my— wait. Oh, we're doing this. Okay, good. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Because you see, Ganon, I think you've come down with a bad case recently of not knowing just how toast you are, you dumb idiot! I'll bring you down with this one arrow flurry and no more! I shouldn't even waste my tomatoes on you, you uppity git! But for Sonia and Rauru! For Sonia and Rauru! What? Anything else smart to say? Nope, just dismissing all your clones? Good. You've realized that you can't possibly contend with us, no matter how many of you are. Knock them all back, why don't you? See how long you last against my tomatoes of justice. Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll do this the old-fashioned way, shall we? You're not even worth the Master Sword. Yeah, you think you can dodge again, but I've got news for you. I can do that twice as well! You get out of here, you scoundrel! Shouldn't have even wasted my good tomatoes on you, you coward! Maybe I'll just shoot you a bit. It seems like a waste going for all the flurries over and over again. Here. Nah, I'm not falling for that again. Make me jump out of the way and make a fool of me. Why don't you get out of here? Can't believe I threw tomatoes at you, you waifu killer! Could have used those tomatoes to make pizza! Would have been way better spent.
Pour gouverner ce monde.
It's not what you think. Man, can you just calm down? We can have tea. You can have some pizza if that's what you want. I assure you there are better things in life than just like killing everyone. Come on. I feel like you're about to make a big mistake here.
Ce corps ne m'est plus d'aucune utilité. Je vous emmène avec moi en enfer. Et j'arrondirai ce monde dans les ténèbres d'une nuit sans
Yeah, I get that sense from you. I don't think you're joking. I don't think I'm capable of having the chills anymore. I've just been having chills this entire episode. Well, we know what happens when you eat one of those. I didn't when I did this part initially. Oh, it's cool. It's like the Calamity as well. Ah, no! Ow! Let go! Man, I hope the sages are alright with all the rocks falling everywhere. I mean, it's kind of hard to kill them. They're pretty sturdy, but... jeepers. While on the loading screen, take comfort in the fact that you've been being carried away by a giant dragon. I can't laugh if I gave you one of those tool tips. It's hard to escape the grip of a giant dragon. Dragons are powerful. What then? What now? What more will you try, Ganondorf, when even the tomatoes have felled you? That, my friends, is what I was saving those tomatoes for, this whole journey, if you were wondering why I said I had plans for them earlier. Man, hope none of Captain Hawes and their team was, like, standing around, because they're getting totally destroyed by a bunch of castle ruins now. Oh, the Breath of the Wild hits. I remember you swirled around this castle back then, too. You were less long then. There he is, in all his horned-up glory. Draconified Demon King. Demon Dragon! Ah, it's got me in his mouth, not even in his hand. Ah, wait, no, don't bite, don't bite. Down, good dog. Ah, oof, it hurt. We've got a dragon of our own, haha! You're not the only one who has the courage to scarf one of those rocks. Ah, nice one. Thanks, Zelda. Ooh, sick dodge as well. Zelda's a badass at dodging stuff. She knows how to flurry rush as well. That still feels like it would have hurt. But at least you're nice and soft. A landing spot. You and me, Zelda. Let's do this. If there's any two who can handle it, it's me and you. Or, I mean, I might have taken Riju as well, you know. Tulin was doing pretty well by the end as well there, and he could help me fly around, which might make it easier, but you and me! 2v1 me. You... ambitious prick. I'm running out of colorful insults for you. Can we just speed this along a bit? Oh, what an epic shot. To steer the dragon, use the left stick. I gotta dramatically take this out again. It's time. Let's go, piggy. But not before I get a sweet pic. Ah, wait, no, let go, Link. We gotta get a picture. What are you doing? Why are you not? Oh, okay, fine. Well, no picture for now, I guess. Whee! Ha! I will land on you. Yeah, spew those fireballs. I'm already below the fireball line. You think you know what you're doing? Got something on your back here. You probably want to get checked out. Don't worry again, I'll work this out for you. But also, Demon Dragon. Perfect photograph. I was so blinded with my rage when I thought about Sonia that I didn't even get a picture of the intermediate phase. The form that Ganondorf the Demon King attained after swallowing a secret stone and attaining his true power. No trace of his original form remains. Its overwhelming magical strength would shake the skies, the jet black scales covering it repel any and all attacks, save for those of the one and only Master Sword. I'll hit you with the tomato Master Sword if it's the last thing I do. Whoa, it's shot me so far in the sky there. Zelda, Zelda, if I could use a pick-me-up, please. Thank you. All right, let's see if I can remember how to fly a dragon. I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. All right, here. Okay, she's taking me. I can't control her right now, but she's protecting me while I'm on her back. And she's flying me all around here. Once she gets to a height, okay, I can see the other spots here. There's one right below here. So if I dive off here, as I dive, past this, get right down to this one. Thanks for flying by to give me some courage, Zelda. All right, next, Zelda, let's do this. I don't know if it's possible for me to dive past you. I'm assuming you'll just kind of pick me up regardless. Sorry, I shouldn't be like trying to hurdle past you. Let's not mess with her right now. We really kind of need her at this point. Come on, Zelda, your courage is about to be repaid in full. There's two right around here, but it seems like it's a one-at-a-time kind of dealio, so off we go. Just stay there and don't move, Ganondorf. It's actually almost like more impressive that you're able to float there without, moving. Right into the eye of the gloom. Slam! That's that. It did a bit of Breath of the Wild's theme, did you hear that? It went da-da-da-da-da. But then it turned into Ganon's theme. The music in this game is so good! So full of thoughts and emotions right now. But my mind is also emptied of all but the thrill of the hunt. I'm contradicting myself at every step. That's how consumed my mind is with the adventures we are adventuring right now. One more spot on the dragon's back to stab. I can't see it anymore because Zelda's blocking it, but I think it was back over here. Thank you for body blocking all those magical dark beams. Alright, it's going to take a bit of a run to get to this line in the back here, but we can do it. Actually, hang on, maybe can I just put on my glide outfit for a half sec here? That'll make it easier to get to this one. There we go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, calm down with all that now. You, me, and Zelda makes 3 again. Let's finish it after I glide very slowly down. And then bonk. That's enough out of you. Only a little bit more you've got left on you. What is it then? Where do you want me? Name a time and a place, my friend. Yeah, make the sky all red. That's your oldest trick in the book. I've gotten wise. You don't scare me anymore. Oh, that's actually the blood moon is pretty big and imposing. Yeah, that's a little scary. Okay, fine. It was doing a bit of the Tears of the Kingdom theme as well. The music is just off the chain here. All right, Zelda, I think you gotta let me go here. This is my moment. You and me, Ganon. I challenge you! Rule! Another spew. I don't think you have any idea how good I am at dodging those now. Bring that stone here, you cowardly varmint! The tomatoes have sealed your fate and cast their judgment. They're mad at you for killing Sonia too? Face someone face to face next time you try and duel them to the death. You beat Nick! Good catch, Zelda. Without the secret stone, what do you become? A story is what you become. An old legend. And will the blood moon dispel as well? Oh, bang! Sorry, not poof. I remember it being quite so explodey before, but I guess it must have been. Because I do remember this shot. Good job, Zelda. Destroy Ganondorf. Complete. Yay! Good job, little Link. Oh, my hand! I don't know, it's been glowing with all kinds of different colors recently. I'm not sure this is anything too out of the ordinary, but... Oh, the hand took my shirt off! That's unusual. Oh, I can float now too. I see why you're doing it so much, Mineru. It's super fun. The power in the arm that she granted to me way back in the Temple of Time to give me the power over recall. Hey, you two. I threw some tomatoes again. I figured you would like that. hands. If we all put our hands together, then powers are bigger. It's just math. As in before told, there was indeed a way. To get her out of dragon status. It was just really eclectic and you wouldn't have known. Oh, it even unswallowed her stone for her. That's nice. Oh, this version of Zelda's Lullaby is gorgeous. It sounds almost like something from Super Paper Mario. And you gave me my hand back, too! Thanks, guys! Farewell. I hope we two are happy up there. You did good. You brought down the Demon King. I mean, we all did together. You were an instrumental part of that. I appreciate that. I won't forget it. Why do I feel like I'm about to stop floating and start falling? God, having that leather strap right on your bare skin would suck. So, maybe no more secret stones going forward. Oh boy! Good morning! I'm awake! It's time! It's time to not do what I'm doing! There she is! Dive! Oh my god! Don't let her die from massive concussions after falling 3,000 miles! No, wait! Get back here! Zelda! Come here! I didn't come all this way just to lose you to the ground! Death by floor! Wahoo! Shame I didn't keep my glide pants on! But these warm pants are probably going to be necessary at this altitude! Come on! Come on! Get over here! Reach! With the arm that I lost, I think it is. Got it! Oh, thank goodness you two are above water. Water saves everyone from death. Guess there was no hope of a paraglider. Or falling onto a dragon again. And so they both drowned. Wow. Still so gorgeous, isn't it? After all these years, and 7 years since Breath of the Wild. Like I said before, these pants have gotta suck to get wet. There you are. I don't know how long it'll take you to wake up, but... oh, you're awake immediately! Oh, so good. Neat. Hey, you've been sleeping for like thousands of years. I thought I was bad when I did it for 100.
Qu'est-ce que... Je l'avais...
See? Fee's still kicking, and she bid me do all this and stuff. Among many other people asking me to help. Yup, you guessed right. That means...
Et alors? Le roi démon...
history.
Dieu, n'est-ce pas?
Don't think so.
Ce n'est pas un rêve.
Not a dream.
Déesse soit louée. Mais moi, comment je...
That was a little trick from Rauru and Sonia. I don't really know how, but I mean, they just sort of stuck their hands out and it happened.
En
But
fait, je me souviens.
do ya?
J'ai dormi très longtemps. Jusqu'à ce jour. Et puis, soudain, j'ai senti une chaleur vaste et apaisante qui m'enveloppait. Et je me suis réveillée.
I guess that castle doesn't come down, does it? we mine out the central pillar. Hey, no problem. Sure. Anytime.
Tu sais,
Anytime you find a Demon King,
j'ai
leave it to me.
voyagé très loin dans le passé. J'ai fait des rencontres extraordinaires.
Did ya?
Je voulais tellement te raconter tout ça. Et c'est possible à présent.
We have
Je
all the
suis
time in the
rentrée.
world.
Enfin.
Here you are! Yay! I may have taken some, things from the well beneath our house. Find Princess Zelda. Complete. So just don't be mad when you go back there, but, yes, you're home. You got a sick new dress as well. Now, in part 0, that was where it ended. There was no scene beyond. But I'm imagining since we had all the memories and all the dungeons that perhaps there will be something. But maybe they'll do credits first? Tears of the Kingdom. They're doing the credits roll first, so even if there is an extra scene after, I suppose I may as well launch into my endgame review because we did it, friends. Longest playthrough on the channel. Holy crap! It feels like we did so much, because we did. All them shrines, all those dungeons, wow. And man, it's January, like end of January when I'm recording it. Well, not end, it's like the 22nd. What day is it? What day is it? How long have I been in Hyrule? The 23rd. And we began this around the time it came out in May of last year. May of last year, so that should tell you something about just how long this game is and how much there is to do. To start with, I mean, I know I say this a lot when we finish the game, but holy crap, I loved it. What a good game this was. Just to sort of get my broad picture thoughts about it, again, especially with comparison to Breath of the Wild, out of the way, I think perhaps Breath of the Wild was a little more special at the time it came out because it was such a reinvention for the series, and it was such a... I think all the parts of Breath of the Wild were things that had been done before, but never really with that kind of cohesion. Like, I think there are plenty of games that had good puzzle solving like it does, good open world like it does, and it got a cool art style like it does, and like a neat combat system. But it was the first time I'd ever seen an open world game that really meshed all those together with that level of like, oh, they really got it right on this first go kind of thing, I guess. And so this game was a little less special just because it's mechanically quite similar to Breath of the Wild in a lot of ways. One of the major complaints I've heard is that it's basically just Breath of the Wild again. And I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I get like the basic premise of doing the shrines and the dungeons is the same, but that, I mean, all the Zelda games have dungeons, and I don't think... I mean, some people complained that, you know, Twilight Princess was too close to Ocarina or whatever and stuff, but it was never a thing that bothered me very much, so... But even that, with that said, I do understand where people are coming from with this game because it's the same overworld, it's the same engine and all that. But even still, I thought, overall, I think it was very, very good. It was such a good game and a very thoughtful game, and the fact that they said they had it mostly complete a year prior to its release and then focused on fixing like bugs and like fine tuning things is a testament to just how passionate they were about the game and the project. So I usually do this in the order of visuals, then music, and then gameplay, and then story, because I usually assume that's where I'm having the least to talk about, then to the most to talk about. So, starting with the visuals, again, design visually most like the same to Breath of the Wild in terms of direction and stuff, and I loved Breath of the Wild's visuals, of course. I love the Wind Waker and Skyward Sword's visuals, and this is like a blend of the two, as I've said before. This is really cool with the music here, by the way, how it's going through like each of the characters' main themes. Anyway. So the visuals were great. I liked the little flourishes they added with respect to lighting in like the depths and stuff, where now if Link is in the dark, he gets sort of like a grayscale over him, but you can still see him. And all the other little things like the ambient light that the more bright bloom seeds you put, it doesn't just have a localized light, but the area sort of ambiently seems brighter as well. Some cool little flares there. You know, I mean, given its own Switch hardware, there were a number of things that didn't exactly look modern. Like there were some lighting things that were a little less impressive or whatever. But for the most part, oh, I love this. Sorry. Oh, sorry, that brought a tear to my eye. I love that theme so much. It's gorgeous. Where was I? Right. So anyway, but on the total, I love the visual style of it. And I'll get this into a bit with the gameplay as well, because I have a lot to say about the gameplay. This is a review ain't gonna be short, my friends. Certainly not the shortest review we've done on the channel. I did feel a bit like this was one of the very few occasions I've ever seen with any game where I felt that the hardware of the console it was on did actually hold it back a bit. There were a lot of frame drops which kind of took me out of it a bit, and as I'll get into later in the gameplay, a lot of those happened when you had a lot of items out, which sort of discouraged me from trying to experiment with big vehicles too much and stuff, I guess. Nevertheless, on the whole, visuals sturdy. I loved it. I love the design. I love that little, I mentioned before, the little shader they do. Like, you can even see it on like some of the Gerudo's guards' pants there. There's like these little lines that gives it almost this look of it as though it was shaded with a pencil. And it's, I don't know, it just, the style of it is absolutely, I think it will be totally timeless. It's very telling that there are how many copycats of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have come out since those games have, in terms of mechanics and visuals, I think. But, yeah, visuals lovely. On to music. I think this was perhaps, maybe this is controversial, but I think this is maybe the area the game was the strongest in. The music in this game was amazing. Sorry, I just breathed into my own soul. My soul's too spicy. So, again, drawing the comparison to Breath of the Wild because it bears doing as a sequel. I think Breath of the Wild, and this is something I will get into a bit later as I get into sort of the end of the story and stuff as well. Breath of the Wild had a very serious dedication to that isolated feel you get in Hyrule, but not isolated in a scary way, isolated in a beautiful way, that tranquil vibe you get when you can just stand on a hill, like by yourself, and the wind rustles through the grass and stuff, and then you can like look out over the vast plains. And the music was very much designed to reflect that. Something I found in this game was that I felt like there was a bit of clashing between wanting to keep that same isolated feel of Breath of the Wild because it was so iconic to it, but then also trying to make it much more built up, because Breath of the Wild, when it got to its built up moments, it really had waited a long time. Like, it was like, you're like silently going through the woods for like 16 hours, and then suddenly you're rocking off into the sky to fight a giant robot bird, and then like the music kicks up and everything. So when Breath of the Wild had those moments, I think they were fewer and far between, whereas Tears of the Kingdom was a lot more full of those huge dramatic cinematic moments. And I guess that's why I felt like there was sort of a mix of trying to do that same thing Breath of the Wild did, of making you feel isolated with the music sometimes. Not this theme, obviously. And then sometimes a mix of more orchestral and dramatic pieces like that, and it sometimes hit a bit of a point where it was clashing, I kind of felt like, because the entire mood of the game, this game is a bit more built up, like Hyrule sort of rebuilt a bit more, it's a bit more populated and stuff. But anyway, on to the actual music that was here. I mean, I think it has some of my favorite music from any Zelda game. It's absolutely gorgeous. And not just the absolutely gorgeous dramatic pieces like the one we're listening to here, or that version of Sidon's theme that we heard earlier, or that theme that plays when on the last skydive down to the last boss there, where the music starts going with that like the anxiety-inducing Ganon leitmotif or whatever. But then as you're diving, it also gets like drowned out by this like triumphant like da 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 da, like this like brass section that comes in, and it's just so like, oh yeah. There's some music in this game that is just scratches that like orchestral, dramatic, super fantasy, high fantasy itch. Like the one we're listening to now, but also in its like more sillier moments as well. Like the Muk Darok theme is so funny and so perfect to the battle. But also then again, Colgara theme just hits you out of nowhere, right in the gut and the heart with that Rito Village theme, and I'm almost crying just thinking about it because of how much that that moment when you started skydiving and it kicked up with the Rito Village theme. There's like goddamn nothing in the world in any video game that has like got right to my core and like that did, and like I felt like it was talking right to me, you know. Especially because I spent a long time on Dragon Roost when I was a kid, because I was bad at that game. But man, it just it touched me and hit me right there, and I was just like, oh, like it got me. So the music in this game absolutely amazing, and I think I don't know, it's either the Muktarok theme or the theme of the Demon King's army that is my favorite. We're probably about to hit the post-credit scene, so hang on a moment. Those credits were actually a lot shorter than I would have expected. The end. Did I maybe not do enough to earn a post-credit scene, or maybe there just isn't one? Oh, nope, there's something. Didn't get this last time. There's Mineru, the Temple of Time. And everyone else is here.
Wow.
Purah's here too.
Vous imaginez l'ingéniosité déployée pour faire flotter une masse pareille?
Did we all ride here on my silly little hovercraft?
Les exploits de la civilisation Sonao me surprendront toujours.
Or we're gonna put the Master Sword back here, maybe.
Nous sommes arrivés. Je suis heureuse d'avoir eu le temps de vous conduire jusqu'ici. Admirez. C'est le royaume d'Hyrule tout entier qui s'offre à vos regards.
Oh, eh ben, vous étiez déjà monté aussi haut que ça, vous?
Non,
Your sage has.
je n'ai jamais rien vu de tel. Mais vous aussi, bien sûr. Vous étiez dans le ciel pendant tout ce temps.
I'm not sure she remembers that bit.
Oui, mais je n'en conserve aucun souvenir. Comme c'est étrange. Je n'aurais jamais cru me tenir ici à nouveau.
J'ai bien une théorie à ce sujet. Le pouvoir de la lumière, allié au pouvoir du temps. Link a servi de catalyseur au pouvoir de Rauru et Sonia. C'est ce qui a permis ce miracle.
Oui,
Meaning I could use both in theory? Because that would kind of be neat. It would lend more credence to that theory I keep spouting that Zelda was supposed to be the one to wield the sword and Link the sealing power in the previous game. Never mind about that now.
Il est temps. Mon heure est venue.
Dame Mineru.
Il y a fort longtemps, nous avions chargé les générations futures d'éliminer ce fléau. Et grâce à vous tous, il a enfin été vaincu. Je peux donc retourner auprès de Rauru et des miens l'esprit tranquille.
Yes? Oh, we should leave her to do it by herself. You're right. Sorry, that's really impolite to, like, watch it happen. Oh, never mind. We're gonna stand back. Sorry, I don't understand what you were trying to signal me, Tulin. Use your words next time.
D'une même voix, nous les quatre, en faisant le serment, nous soutiendrons Zelda.
Oh.
Nous soutiendrons la princesse Zelda et maintiendrons la paix à Hyrule.
Going to do this ritual. I see what you were saying now, Tulin. Sorry for snapping at you.
J'en ferai part à Rauru et à Sonia.
Dame Mineru.
Je leur transmettrai aussi tes sentiments les plus sincères.
le roi Rauru, la reine Sonia, Dame Mineru, ainsi que les sages des temps anciens. S'ils se sont battus, ce n'était pas pour un répit éphémère. Ils voulaient que le royaume vive en paix pour toujours. Et ce souhait, je veux l'honorer.
We'll stand with you for as long as it takes.
Je veux qu'il vive à tout jamais.
Oh, well, I don't know if that sounds like a long time.
Il vivra. Nous serons là pour y veiller. Tous ensemble.
You know it will, buddy. Da, 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 da. Awesome. Amazing. Wondrous. Much more satisfying end cutscene than I got in part 0, which was just her being like, I'm back! I'll carry on with what I was saying about the music, because I forget exactly where I was, but I was about to gush about something. Oh, the Demon King's Army theme. Ah, okay, that's title screen. Let's load that file up, shall we? Got a star on it now, we can at least look at the 100% tally before we carry on too far here. I'll go find somewhere pretty to stand out. Oh, Demon King Ganondorf has been added. Neat. Oh, and all these ones that I had here as well also got added. Oh, so I could have gotten the middle picture here. Damn it, I'll have to fight him again now. Here's a cozy little rock. There we are. Okay, very good. We'll leave right here while I carry on talking. So, I was just talking about the Demon King's Army theme. Is awesome. I love that it takes that. So, this game does a cool thing with the battle theme as well. Where Breath of the Wild did the same thing, I think, where... So it sort of has like a number of different ways each portion can go, but then it sort of plays them in with a bit of randomness, but also with a bit of sense towards what actually is happening in the battle. If you're getting the upper hand, if it's a long battle with lots of enemies, it gets more dramatic and so on and so forth. This game did the same thing, and it also did the same sort of musical, like, there's the same sort of musical ideology with it, where Breath of the Wild has that, like, that sort of riff or whatever, that of violin where it goes da 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 da, and most of the song is just that, and then that bit with the sort of intro bit that it's dun 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 dun, and it's playing that sort of over and over again, but just toying with the idea of it and raising it up and down and stuff as the battle gets more dramatic. And this one sort of did the same thing with, because at first it starts with that dum dum. Dun, 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 dun. And it sort of like builds from that point. But then where it ends up going to is this bit where it breaks down to this big like violin riff again, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but that and then like it sort of plays with that idea a whole bunch. And then for the Demon King's Army to take that sort of motif and like stretch it out into this big whole thing where it's this like dramatic like, and then like it hits you with right at that like crucial moment where it rises up to that point and it hits you with that thing you've been hearing in the battle theme this whole time of like it was so cool the way they took a battle, the normal battle theme that you've been hearing sort of played in all these different ways this time, and then they stretched it out into this, oh, but now we can make it better, did you know? And so I don't know, I don't know how to explain much more than it was such a dramatic and like perfectly scored theme, and the way it sort of builds up. Like it starts out kind of really like, it's like the same song, but it's very tense. It's all, and there's like that electric guitar like playing in the background. But then as you get into phase 2 and you're doing a little better, then it hits you with that more heroic and uplifting, and it's just so, it just rocked me so hard the first time we played this. And even though I was so miffed that I was dying every 2 seconds, I was just so like, oh man, like this is exactly what an epic last fight theme should feel like. And of course, all the stuff that they did with Ganondorf and his theme. I love the way that this game loves to take a tune and spin it in all kinds of different ways. They played with Ganon's little da 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 da, like his main theme from the other games a lot in this game, as well as the Hyrule Castle theme from Breath of the Wild, as well as the Hyrule Castle theme from the older games, and as well as Zelda's Lullaby. Like there were loads of love to old themes, and I think that's what Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Mario Odyssey, and Animal Crossing New Horizons, I dare even say. Well, a lot of the games of this era have been this huge celebration of like the series thus far, and it works very well in this game, I think. But musically, at the very least. I don't know how much more I can say about the music, because I could be here discussing every track. Oh, there were so many good themes. I mean, man, but yeah, it's, because it's like, the three that stick out to me are, but then I loved Lookout Landing's theme as well. It's so nice and pleasant. Like the little dancing across the piano they do. I love the restraint of it, I guess. The restraint that a lot of it has. But again, that does sort of feed into one of the things I was saying earlier, how Breath of the Wild is a bit more committed to that, whereas this game sort of wants to be that, but then also be dramatic and huge. And so it's not that it does either thing poorly, it's just that they sometimes feel like they mesh in a kind of weird way, where the music will be nice and chill like it is that's playing here, like nice and quiet and ambient like it is here, sort of like it was in Breath of the Wild, but then it'll launch into something else. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like it clashes a bit, but the pieces themselves are gorgeous. It's for the top three. It's got to be Muktarok, Colgera, and then Demon King's Army. I just don't know in what order. Oh, and the bit right after it does the Rito Island Village theme in like the Dragon Roost Island theme in Colgera's theme, and then it hits you with that little do 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 do, and it's just so like it fits the pacing of like an archery based like skydiving battle so well. It's just so blown up and awesome. So I suppose I probably said all I really need to be saying about the music as it stands. God, that is gorgeous. Look at that sunset. So I will move on to gameplay. I have a lot to talk about here because this game is very gameplay heavy. I want to get this out of the way because I feel like a lot of people are going to be upset about me for this. Breath of the Wild's combat is pretty fun. I like it. And this game carries over the major components of it as well and just adds in the fusing and stuff. I was never like absolutely enthralled by the combat because they've added so much depth and complexity to like all the other powers you have. I understand that then to add a bunch of different fighting systems would be sort of a bit laborious and probably not really worth it. Like I get that there's something nice about the simplicity of this, that basically the sword play is just press Y to attack. If you get a dodge, you get more attacks, and then the bow and arrow has the same thing. It's press R to shoot, ZR to shoot, and then if you go over a cliff, you get to shoot in slow-mo as well. I definitely prefer this to making it overly complex and adding a bunch of like extra systems like a lot of action RPGs are liable to do. And especially with how big this world is and how much there is to explore, to force you to learn a battle system that like takes like 20 hours would be really obnoxious. So fair play for them. The point I'm getting at here, I'm sorry I'm being long-winded about it, is that for whatever reason or another, I found the swordplay in most of the other 3D Zeldas a bit more satisfying. Twilight Princess is the one I'm really thinking about here. I love the sword fighting in Twilight Princess. I think it's just because Twilight Princess gives you all the different mechanics. You get the roll around the enemy's back technique, the shield bump technique, the charge up jump strike technique. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I think the combat in this game is quite good, but I think it's just purely a personal taste thing. It would have been neat if they brought one of those mechanics back. Like I just love the frickin' backslice. It's just the coolest. It's just the coolest. I love it. I wish every game had the backslice. I wish Animal Crossing had the backslice. Anyway, but moving on to a lot, because there's a lot to talk about with gameplay, man. It's a big game, lots to do. I don't even know where to begin. The exploration. It was a little different for me in this game than Breath of the Wild, but I think at its core, it is the same. But I experienced it a bit differently, I think, because I already knew the world. So even though I personally think... First of all, sorry, I should not have even started gameplay without saying, it needs to be said, before you talk about taste, anything, this game is an absolute marvel of computer science. The way they got half of this stuff to work blows my mind, and that it works... First of all, to get it to work conceptually, and then to get it to work in an action game is just like... How is it possible? Like the bridge was with linking mechanics, the fuse, the ultra hand that you can fuse and make huge structures with, the mechanics of how on the harbor that was clearly not cutting it in certain points, they still managed to make this open world still be visible through most of it. You know what I mean? And then the huge cavernous depths and the way they managed to make all that mostly seem like it's like now and again, like we'll sort of freeze and then you have a loading screen for about 2 seconds, but it's very uninvasive and damn impressive, I would say. But really, like the ultra hand mechanics, the bridge mechanics, like the coil and like flexing mechanics, show-stopping, I would say it. Outstanding, astounding, stellar, astonishing, all the synonyms. Sorry, back to what I was saying about exploration though. Just I wanted to get that out of the way. This game is incredible, like just feat of incredible program before it is a game. But so I guess the fact that what I was leading into with that was I think I respect not only from a point of view of like let's not overwork the developers any more than is then they're already gonna. I appreciate reusing the map. I think that's a good call because it lets you spend time on the mechanics, the story beats, the dungeons, the new areas that you're developing in the map. And I think Breath of the Wild's map still had a lot of secrets it felt like it had left to tell. So I think it was fair enough to reuse it. But of course, so I think overall I'm glad they did that and I would prefer it. But one of the drawbacks was that I wasn't as encouraged to explore because I played Breath of the Wild. So I felt like, well, I already know what's over there. I'll run in just to get like the waypoint marked, but I'm not gonna like spend too much time investigating nooks and crannies, I guess, really. Except for if a Purah catches my eye. And I guess we'll have more time to do that in the 100% run, because we still haven't obviously seen really all of what this game has to offer, or I would see even a lot of what this game has to offer. And I think they were trying to kind of balance that out with the adding all the sky islands and adding the depths and adding caves on the surface. And I think I kind of got that vibe with the sky islands. Like I kind of went, oh yeah, this is just like when I started Breath of the Wild and I wanted to go explore over there and there and there. Especially with all these cool looking islands like these huge ones that are pillars, these ones that are huge spheres. There's one somewhere around here. Anyway, just the look at of all these islands in the sky and all over the place is very enticing to explore. And so what I'm getting at is I didn't get that quite as much with the caves and the depths. I felt like once I'd seen one cave, I'd sort of seen them all, save for whatever shrine they might have. Like, there's going to be some mushrooms, there's going to be a Horriblin or two, there's going to be a bubble frog. And so I felt like, at some point, it kind of felt like maybe they were just adding them so they would have some more places to put shrines and bubble frogs. And maybe if there were fewer of those that had a bit more special to them, like that, like the Rabak Gallery one had the big minecart rail, and it had its own little gimmick and sort of made it unique and stuff. Not that I'm always following the gimmicks that they lay out for us in this game, of course. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm making a hovercraft and flying over it, which I'll get to in a bit. And so I think I'll put that, I'll set that down there. The exploration, it's got the good elements of Breath of the Wild, but because I played Breath of the Wild, I was less encouraged to explore certain areas, and not all the new areas of the depths and the caves thrilled me overly. It's weird, because I can't really place why it is that the depths were less interesting to me to explore than the surface. I think what it might be is that because there are so many different entrances to the depths, and on the whole, it's mostly not very obstructed height-wise. Like, there are a few tall ridges and stuff, but mostly it's just sort of roaming hills and awkward valleys. I think it's a combination of that and the fact that, for the most part, you're only required on the surface, so I never, like... If I just pick a random bit in the depths over here, I'm just going to just spin this dick around a whole bunch, and then... where are we here? Sort of in the central middle here. Like, you go here for auto-build, and they have you do a thing where you follow statues. This is a huge portion of space that I did not ever really need to traverse, I suppose. I mean, obviously it was... I mean, it was good for auto-build, but what I'm getting at is that I think what makes the rest of this compelling is that I often will see like a shrine over in the distance and say, oh, I want to climb up that ridge to get to that. And then I see a village in the distance. Oh, I want to climb down there and get that. And so you have making your way through the world is a puzzle and an adventure in itself, I guess. Save for when I was doing the light routes, it was a bit of that, but it was a bit more just like, I'm wandering in the dark and throwing bright bloom seeds and trying not to get stuck in awkward walls where I can't see. Not being able to see made it more challenging, but also with sort of took away that whole, oh, I want to go over there and get that. Oh, I see that and I want to get that over there. Maybe if I had explored it when, like, if it had started with all the light routes on, I might have had a different experience with it, perhaps. But again, it's meant to feel different from the traversal above ground, and I like that they put effort into making it awkward to travel in a way that the upper ground isn't, so it feels distinct in that way. I just never felt a tremendous urge that I needed to go to certain places in here, which I guess is what the treasure is trying to do. Like, they were like, oh, I bet you want this other gear. Now you have to find a way to explore and traverse this awkward place. And I guess that maybe is also what the mines are about. But then again, it's like, there's a chasm right here, like a spitting distance from those mines, so you never actually really have to do much, save for what we did when we were doing the light routes. You don't really have to do much traveling in a great length of time in the depths. I think maybe that's why it was a little less engaging for me or something. I bet it'll be a lot of fun to explore in post-game, though, and we're going and getting all the treasure and everything. So I felt like probably there was a lot of time spent developing that area, and maybe it could have been made smaller with more things in it. I'm not sure. Because, again, there are a lot of things where I'm going to have criticisms of the gameplay here, where it's like, but I get that that's kind of the design they were choosing. Like, they were trying to design the depths to be very big and sort of barren feeling, and you can't have that if it's more smaller and compact with lots of more crucial story points you need to get to in between. I like that one of the dungeons was down in the depths, for instance, but it's kind of a shame that they drop you like right in front of it here. Like, it would have been cooler if I think if Yunobo had found a depths entrance like over here, and they ask you to go down there, or like this one over here, and so you have to traverse like a bunch of stuff over here, and maybe there's some enemies in the way, there's a forest here, and then the lava over here, and then over here, and so you have to kind of weigh that in your mind and go, oh, or would it be better if I went to this depths entrance here, kind of thing. Like, I feel like maybe there were a few too many depths entrances that made it easy to get around without actually traveling in the depths. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at here with all this ranting. Nevertheless, let's cease talking about exploration for now. I touched on the combat a bit. I want to talk about the new powers. They were superb. I really liked them. Ultra Hand is incredible, obviously, being able to stick stuff together. I think my favorite one is probably Fuse. I really like the way that Ascend changes the way you look at an area. Like, you're no longer, like in any other game, I would say, except maybe Minecraft, you don't look at these areas and you're not looking for an overhang so I can ascend kind of thing in the same way that you do in this game. I mean, maybe there are probably other games where you have like a grappling hook that does that or something, but I very much like the way Ascend changed the way you look at the world. That's basically all I have to say about that. It's good. The way you rocket up through a floor, it is awesome. And again, feels like it would have been hard to program in like a working as reasonably as it does. Recall had the best puzzles in this game by far were the ones that asked me to do recall. They really ask you they really give you the ability to think about things spatially in a way you couldn't, because there are more dimensions now. It's not only where do I move this, it's where and when do I move this, and when should I have it moved, and when should it replay that movement. There were so many clever puzzles. I felt like my favorite shrines almost definitely like that were the ones that used it. Like the one that there was one that asked you to roll it back up the thing it fell out of, and that one was a bit more straightforward, but it was still quite good. I like the drifting flame one that we did somewhat recently. I like the one, perhaps my favorite one, the one where I went, oh, recall is cool, is there was one where there's a bowl on a platform moving around to right over top of a receptacle you need to get the orb into. And so but you can't reach that far with your Ultra Hand to get the orb in there. And so you can put the orb in the bowl, but then it's just rolling over top of the receptacle, and you're like, how's that going? But then the moment that clicked, and it was like, oh, but I can make it retrace that without the bowl and then just drop it there. Oh man, it was so cool. And the one where you make it retrace its steps up the ramp, but then stop it halfway so that you can grab it. And then even the ones where you weren't supposed to use recall, and I just did, like with the one where they wanted you to use the giant wheels to get through the lava, but we just skipped the whole thing right at the beginning. The one where there were a bunch of rails, that was the one where I first started to see how much you could use it to break stuff. And for the most part, I felt like you couldn't break everything with it. You could break enough things to the point that if you thought of it, or speaking for myself here, when I thought of it, I didn't feel like, great, another thing that I can wreck with recall. I felt like, I'm glad I had the thought to use recall to skip this one, because it wasn't possible for all of them, right? They all had different requirements. Recall was incredible. It was funny because it was, when I saw it in the trailers and I saw them rolling something back up a hill at a monster, I was like, that's useless. When are you going to be able, the only time that's useful is if someone throws something at you, and I was so wrong. So I talked a bit about Ascend and Recall now, and I talked shortly about Ultra Hand, but I have a lot more to say about that with the vehicles especially, but I'm going to get into that later, because I want to talk about Fuse. I love Fuse. I think this game and Breath of the Wild both have this sort of thing where there's a bit right at the beginning, not right in the first hour, but like hours 2 to 20, I think, are where the game is most fun. And it's because you have enough resources that you can make decisions with them. You're not sort of forced into doing one thing, like, I'll use the only sword I have. But you don't have so many resources that you can just have, how many of these weapons did we break in that last fight? 1? I don't think we broke any bows, did we? Not so many bows that you clear Ganon in 2 arrow rushes anyway, but you have just enough that you have to make decisions, and I think the Fuse really bumps that into overdrive, because the thing about the Fuse is it makes the environment more rewarding. Taking down enemies, cutting down a tree, going underground and hacking open some ore to find some minerals. All of those things in Breath of the Wild would have given you an item in your inventory. Say it was wood from the tree, teeth from the monster, minerals from the ore that you could sell or use to upgrade your armor at a Great Fairy. Those were basically the only 2 things, as in most cases, You could use wood to start fire and stuff. Fuse gives you so many more options for that. Being able to stick things on the end of arrows is to give them a little extra damage when you're maybe don't have that much punch in your bows is awesome. Being able to stick them to your weapons to make them do different things. You've got weapons that do fire. You've got weapons you can put mushrooms on them to make them bouncy. You could stick a mushroom on a stick and then throw it at someone to do it from afar without wasting an arrow. All those little decisions that you are given the opportunity to make, I guess, is the point. We're awesome. We made all these weapons and didn't use one of them in that last fight, I just realized. And as well, I liked, this is sort of related to Fuse because it's about weapons. I like that all the different weapons, or a bunch of different weapons had their own sort of little personal effects. Not talking about the attack up +7 thing, but the attaching material to Gerudo things that greatly increases them. This one yields more powerful stealth attacks. Attaching Zona devices to these ones makes them better. This one's do more flurry damage. This one. I did really like the choice of that because it made it so that, because in Breath of the Wild it was like, get royal weapons, don't get royal guard weapons, they break too fast. Don't get knight's weapons, they're not as good. Just go to the castle, or the area, the 3-mile radius around the castle, find some royal weapons, use those. Get a fire one if you need to keep yourself warm. And so I like that this, in theory here, and because they also gloomified them all such that their attack powers were pretty close together. Not super close together, but like a knight's one wasn't so far below a royal one that it was useless. I like that because of that system, you get to choose somewhat which kind of playstyle you want, which effects you want. If you think you're going to be down at like your last heart a lot, you want the knight's one. If you use a lot of charge attacks, you use the soldier's one, so on and so forth. Giving you that more that choice is good. It did sort of devolve to the end where I just had so many royal weapons, and the flurry rush one is really good. So I just most of my weapons were just a flurry rush weapon with a silver something on the end. Silver Moblin Sledge, Redstone Talus Sledge, Gypto Sledge, Flame Gleok Sledge, Spear. And this is something I found in Breath of the Wild a bit too. There are a lot of clever ways to fight where you can, you pick up a metal box, drop it on the enemy, have someone else hit a barrel with recall, and then you lure them to the other side of it. With stasis in Breath of the Wild it would be. And then the barrel they hit slams into them. But most of these things do so little damage in comparison to just whacking them with whatever weapon you have, that by the end I feel like you're more encouraged to just get good weapons and press Y a bunch, which is a bit of a shame. And I sort of felt that again creeping into this one with a bit. I felt less the urge to make bouncy weapons, to make weapons that had fire stuff in the end. I did it only this one because I wanted variety, even though these ones are a sight more powerful. Mostly it was just like I'm gonna sort by Fuse attack power and grab one of the top ones here to use, and they mostly are just either they have a sledge, but then the difference is just, is it blunt damage or slice damage? And I felt like maybe they didn't take that quite as far as they could have. Like maybe there could have been weapons. I think maybe, you know what? It's funny because I keep comparing it to this game favorably to Horizon Zero Dawn, and because that's like one of the very few open world games I've actually played other than Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. But something I liked about Horizon Zero Dawn is on the harder difficulties, if you use I don't think there were ice arrows, but saying it was ice arrows, maybe there were, on a powerful enemy, I understand that it's like, if on hard mode you can freeze them with one ice arrow, that would be too easy. So the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom approach is, well, then ice arrows just don't do anything different against powerful enemies. They're just normal damage. I like what Horizon Zero Dawn does, where if you're using something that works effectively on smaller enemies against a boss, rather than saying, nah, it doesn't do anything, just use normal damage, the game says, okay, you're gonna have to hit it with a lot more ice arrows if you want to freeze it, though. It gets a little gauge that fills up with ice. So if the puff shrooms and muddle buds, these new cool things, and all the different ice weapons you can get, the light ones that can blind enemies, the electric ones that sort of shock them and make them drop their weapons, if all these could have a bit more power against larger enemies by having some kind of hit them with 6 of them and then they freeze and you get that critical strike with the ice that sort of knocks them back and stuns them and does extra damage. Or then it sort of paralyzes them and they drop any gear they might have on, maybe Ganondorf would drop his gloom sword and then he would just make another one, right? But then you get a gloom sword out of it, kind of thing. And it would add just a bit more encouragement, what's the word I'm looking for? Incentive to use elemental weapons in harder combat, rather than just being kind of a gimmick for weaker enemy combat. Ditto for the puff shrooms and muddle buds. Puff shroom lets you get a sneak attack. Nice. Doesn't do anything against bosses. only use it when you have like you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by a bunch of normal monsters. But if I could shoot an enemy with like a Ganondorf with 10 pop shrooms, and then he got all smoke in his eyes, and then I could get one sneak strike on him for extra damage, and then the whole plan of keeping one of these around with a Gibdo bone on it would really pay off and get that big damage on him. I would have been like, oh man, yes, I saved up all my resources and this is what it was for. But on the whole, I think Fuse is a step in the right direction for getting away from that thing in Breath of the Wild of just have all the inventory of the same weapon kind of thing. And it's oh so fun to fuse a bunch of random junk to your arrows and shoot them at people. On that same point though, I think I mentioned this around the water temple. I kind of would have liked it if the environmental fuses had been more useful later in the game. Again, this is why earlier game was kind of more fun, because I could see like I could cut down a tree, have a giant log, and be like, oh, I can stick this to a weapon, and then it would actually like improve its reach and damage and stuff. And that was a viable thing. The game was like, yeah, sure you can, go for it. Use your environment, man. A big stone tablet is covering the entrance to a cave. You moved out of the way, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I could use that to make a fan. So if those, and at that point they weren't doing like much less damage, and sometimes they were doing a bit more damage than my starting game monster bits, like the few bokoblin fangs and stuff I had. We're only doing 5 attack power, so using that the tree ant corpse that had did +6 or whatever, and gave me a bit of extra range. It was like, oh neat, this is a direct reward from fighting this enemy that gives me something physical to use in the rest of the world. And again, still I think this is a step in the right direction, because being able to take down a powerful monster like a silver bokoblin early on in the game, it's like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm being cheeky by going after this thing when I've got like 4 hearts. But then getting something way above your pay grade to attach to your little shoddy wooden stick and get like a 34 one-hander was an awesome feeling, and really ramped up that feeling of it's not just open world in the literal sense that I can walk anywhere, but I can get anything that I have the skills and the know-how to get. And I like that about it. Sort of along a similar line, I want to talk about Ultra Hand and the vehicles now, because I have a lot to say there. I really like these things more in theory than in practice, I think. I like the building. I like that the vehicle building is very free form, and it's just like stick some stuff together, put a control stick on it, and the control stick was amazing, by the way, in the way it how easily it did exactly what I was expecting for most vehicles. But like when I first did that was before we really had our main hovercraft in the auto build. Might even be before we had auto build. When I first did that over in just south of Farron at the beach, and I put like a log and 3 fans on the bottom of it, and I was like, will this be a hovercraft if I stick a steering? Oh my god, I'm flying! That moment of like, oh, this is the vehicle building in this game. It's just as simple as put the things you want to do on it was such a cool moment. And I think the vehicle building, incredible achievement there. Even if it's a little awkward to stick some things together, like I don't know how it could be better, really. Like, there's only so good building a vehicle with 2 analog sticks can feel, I guess. So I think they did about as well as they could have with the building things with Ultra Hand. And they obviously then they clearly realized at some point, oh, people don't want to be building the vehicle from scratch each time, hence auto build. And it's like, okay, thank you. I can just build it once and then save some favorites. 8 favorites is a bit diminutive somehow. I feel like it feels like we might have a bit more, but I guess it probably takes a lot of memory. There's probably some reason like that it's that way. No, but surely the other ones that are in your history that aren't favorites take the same amount of space, because it's also a vehicle recipe just saved. So why didn't they just let you have 50 favorites instead? I don't know. What I was getting at, though, was I did sometimes run into the slightly Scribblenauts-esque problem. Once I can fly, what's left? You know what I mean? Like, what do I need a vehicle for when I have this tight, compact thing that only costs 18 zonite and can fly? It was a combination of that feeling and also the feeling of putting more than one weapon and then like a wheel on a thing is already taking so much power that it can only run for like 20 seconds unless I'm at the max battery. Which we did get to max battery somewhere around the middle of the playthrough, but I didn't, at that point it was like, I've got a hovercraft, I don't feel like experimenting with vehicles. It was again the kind of the thing of like, why would I bother trying to find something useful to fuse when I've got these silver bokoblin horns in my backpack that I have like tons of and they do more damage? Why would I bother building a siege vehicle when hitting them with a sword does way more damage than the little lightning prods on the front and is way easier to do and takes less time and will get me killed less because I don't have to worry about piloting a vehicle into them at that point? And I suppose the construct that Mineru gave us, the Mineru construct at the end kind of gave me the same vibe. It was like, all right, this is neat to give me at like the end of the game. I'm already better at fighting than this thing is. So the only benefit would be if it was the specific instance like they had in the Spirit Temple there where they forced me to do it because the floor was gloom. It's a cool robot. The siege vehicles you can build in this game are cool. Maybe I'm just not imaginative enough or something, because I kept feeling like I don't have any situation where the stupid spring car that I made that was so much fun is more useful than climbing or shooting someone with an arrow, blah blah. But again, it's one of those problems that I don't actually know how I would solve, because it's a very complex thing they've done here, and they should be lauded for it endlessly, according to me. Well, an action-adventure game of the year for a reason. I don't know how I would solve it, because if you had put me in a situation where you had said, your swords and bows don't work here, you're forced to use a vehicle, I would have said that's restrictive and dumb. So that would have been a way to force me to interact with the vehicle building a bit more, but I would hate it. And then also at the same time, it's meant to give you more sandbox material, I suppose. So I can't really fault it for that either, because these games have great sandbox game potential. So I think that that's sort of the crux of a lot of the things, like the additions of the depths, some parts of the fuse, and then the vehicle building. There was a lot of it where it was like, since this is built on the foundations of Breath of the Wild, and I can mostly get by doing the same things I did in the Breath of the Wild, jumping, gliding, climbing, hitting people with swords, flurry rushing, why in the heck would I spend all the effort trying to learn how to build a giant car? It also bears mentioning that I think there's obviously no wrong way to play these games. For my money and for my preference, I would say I played this game somewhat wrong in this playthrough, because I was trying to go fast, because I went fast and it took 88 episodes. Because I was powering through it, I was looking for the most efficient road, the easiest, most thoughtless road to get to solutions of problems. So every time it was like, we need to cross a great distance, right? Flying with a hovercraft, even though it would have been more fun to build an all-terrain giant monster wheels vehicle and kind of thing. Had a big tough fight to get, right? Royal Broadsword with extra flurry damage, wait for a flurry, do it. And make no mistake, that was still plenty fun. I had a lot of fun doing that, and fussing with some of the puzzles, doing recall. I did love so many of the shrines in this game, and I think it's for that reason that I will now talk about, since I was mentioning the rushing bit. For going fast, it was nice that, like, 40 of the shrines were blessings. I kind of felt like I wanted more puzzles out of it by the end. I loved so many of the puzzles in this game in shrines that I wish fewer of them had been in blessings. I felt like they were a bit too overzealous with that. They did, I think there were maybe a few too many, let's count how many there were. I count 24, there were probably a few more than that. Of the shrine quests were crystal quests. 24 of 31 shrine quests, by the way. Only 6 things you need to do outside of a shrine, whereas Breath of the Wild, I feel like, had a lot more. There were some interesting puzzles you had to do, or, at least passingly fun, like the one where it's like, cast a cold shadow, you have to roll the snowball around and all that, shoot an arrow into the sun at noon and all this kind of stuff. Like, there was, and catch a deer and ride it over here. There were some really silly and fun ones, and there were a lot of crystal ones in this one. And of course, they all end up, it's just bring a crystal from A to B, which again, in my case, mostly was just stick it on your hovercraft and fly. At which point, at the end, there's a reward, and if there's a blessing shrine for you. I could have done with, and then beyond those 24 or so, there were way more that were just blessings because they were in a cave that was slightly long or something. I did really want, like, it's like this game has 32 more shrines than Breath of the Wild, because it's got 32 in the sky as well, but like maybe 40 or 50 of them were blessings is how it felt. So it was kind of like, well, there aren't actually that many new shrines. But the ones where they did use recall to good purpose, and of course the Proving Grounds ones were among my favorites because they tapped into that 2 to hour 20 mode of the game where you have enough resources that you're not helpless and choiceless, but just enough that the decisions you make with your materials are important. They therefore encourage more creative thought, I guess, is where I'm going with it. So that's why they were among my favorite, and also why I wished a bunch of them had been longer. It would have been neat to see one of them with like 5 floors, because then it would have made you engage with that resource management aspect a little even closer. But I understand the threat of, if the player can run out of materials, then they can potentially soft lock or whatever. Oh wow, 56.66 of 100%. Neat. We have so many more side quests to finish. All the shrine quests are done. Side adventures 23 of 60. Main quest 21 of 20. Well, these two are. Right. Anywhoozles. So back to what I was saying about the temples, the shrines. Yes, I could have done with the ones that were puzzles. I don't have anything bad to say. There were so many really fun ones with that made you interact with the powers quite well. The recall ones were almost always the most interesting, but like I guess maybe I could have done with a few more ones that used Ascend in an interesting way, made you go through like a maze that you could see like a big glass wall maze. You could see the whole thing up front. But then it's harder to understand while you're in it, so you have to remember where you want to send up through, kind of thing, and then mix that with some cool recall thing that makes the maze turn around or something. I feel like there's a lot of potential still with these tools, and it's not unheard of for them to design an item in a Zelda game and then bring it back for a later entry. So that would be cool to see Recall come back in a future one, and Ascenda for that matter. Temples, I felt, I very much, so a lot of people complained that in Breath of the Wild, the temples and all the battles at the end of the temples, like the Ganon fights, it's just like slightly robot themed, and it wasn't quite as interesting as people had hoped. I still thought it was pretty cool, all the giant like mech robots, but I get it. Like it's Zelda, you want some good high fantasy. Go into a big fiery temple, there are volcanoes erupting, and then you fight a giant fire monster at the end. And so I'm glad they gave us the bosses. I liked a lot more in this game, I think, than the Blight Ganons. They're more interesting to look at. They are slightly more They're more interesting to look at for sure. I'm not sure if they were more interesting to fight. I'm not saying I don't think they were. I'm just trying to weigh them in my head. I mean, I did like about them that they were like a 1v1 with like a duel with someone who could, fight you with a sword and stuff. So you could actually flurry them and parry them and stuff, rather than it just being like big monster, stomp, stomp. Which with this game took the route of a bit more, but I think I still did like the boss fights in this one a bit more. They felt a bit more energetic somehow. The Muktarok sailing around the map, and then you get it out of the shark, and it just waddles away from you. The Goma has like the rocks that come down from the sky, and it runs up on the ceiling and stuff. They felt like they used the environment a bit more. They felt like they were suited to the environment a bit more. As for the dungeons themselves, I think I might have liked the gameplay of the Divine Beasts a bit more. I think Riju's was my favorite dungeon in this one. I liked the Lightning Temple. I heard some people complaining when the game came out that it basically follows the same formula of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild, rather than going back to like an old style Zelda dungeon where you're going through rooms and it's corridors and it's mazes and it's keys and you do a puzzle in this room, it drops a chest on the ground, which is a key, brings you that one. It was a bit more just like, there are 4 things, go do them, they each have a little puzzle in front of them kind of thing. And even though I also prefer the older style of Zelda dungeons to the ones in these 2 games, I understand why it's an open world game. They want the open world aspects of it to feel lively and connected to this thing, so don't close off the dungeons, make it so that they're nice and big and open, you can sort of run around and jump and fly around in them, but it's a Zelda dungeon, so you want some puzzles, so I guess we put a little puzzle in front of each terminal. I get why they chose to do it that way, and they had some very fun moments in spite of all that, I would say still. I think maybe it was just because Riju's sort of captured a bit more mood than some of the other ones that I liked it the most. Or maybe it was just because it was the first one we did. But then again, I did like the Stormwind Arc as well. It was kind of cool to like, you see that storm in the distance the whole time in the world. And in the same way that in Ocarina of Time, once you, in the adult world, you see the huge flame ring over Death Mountain and you're like, I want to know what that's about until you get there. Like, it's always looming in the background. You're like, I want to know. And it tapped into that same thing with that big storm over Hebra. And then you go, oh, it's cool. It's an ancient, like, floating ship in there. But I guess just because of they follow that Breath of the Wild thing where it's just like, you kind of just dart over to terminal, one puzzle. And then it's basically just like 4 puzzles, then it's done. Stop now. No more temple. Whereas some of the temples in, like, Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess had something where there would be some kind of central architecture to it that would influence the whole design of the gameplay around it. Like, I know a lot of people don't like water temples in any of them, but I liked the water temple in Twilight Princess because it's got that central room that's like a corkscrew, and even the stairs to get up in that room are kind of complex, but it also has a billion exits, and then sometimes it'll be like, you exit here, then climb along the ceiling there, come out there, and then you want to get the water flow going. Anyway, so long story short, I get why they changed it. They kept with the Breath of the Wild design of the temples. I didn't prefer it, but it probably was the right call, and it still had some fun moments and good moments, some good atmosphere among each of them as well. The music was usually really cool, and I liked how it kicked up every time you got a terminal, a la Breath of the Wild. Whew, okay. So moving on from that, let's see, I've talked about the shrines, the dungeons, the exploration, the combat, the powers. I like the feeling of skydiving and the feeling of flying. I think there's a lot. Oh, right. I mentioned before, way at the beginning of this game, like in part 0, I think that I've noticed a lot of quality of life changes, little ones here and there. I didn't love that they made it so that the sparse HUD removed all of it. I kind of would have liked to still have the hearts and the shrine sensor. I don't know why you couldn't have the full HUD option, the Breath of the Wild sparse option, and then the Tears of the Kingdom sparse option, which is this one. But they, aside from that, tons of really good quality of life things. It feels like the way the camera moves when you jump sort of is more suited to all the up and down in this game. I love that now there's the added skydive features that jumping off a high height gives a bit more of that, like you hear the wind rushing past your ears and everything, and it just immerses you in that a bit more. If you jump into water from a high height, now it goes whoosh, and like gives you that sense of height. If you run out of stamina from climbing and fall into the water, you don't instantly drown because that doesn't actually make any sense. You get you're still tired, but you have a saving grace bit of stamina. The shrine tracker now tells you if it's a bit above or a bit below you, because otherwise you have to just kind of jump around and see if it's going when you're going up or when you're down. And it's a little awkward. Tons of little quality of life changes that they took into account from Breath of the Wild, as well as the more major things, like I was talking about with how Fuse sort of fixed a lot of the weapon economies from the previous game. I think maybe I'm reaching to the end of what I wanted to say about gameplay. That was like 40 minutes. Sorry. I think the thesis with the gameplay is absolutely incredible in terms of the scope of what they tried to do and what they did achieve. Many choices were made that did not resonate with me personally, but I think they were doing it for the greater good of the game, so to speak, and fair enough to that. Still a very, very solid game on the gameplay front, and a wonderful entry to the Zelda series. I'm quite happy as a lifelong Zelda fan. I mean, I'm thrilled with it. Moving on to the final sort of category, story. Now, this is a weird one for a few reasons. Number one, Zelda has never been very for the traditional storytelling, partially because they're mostly interested in being games first, I think. Usually the way they do it is big story event happens here, then you do a bunch of dungeoning and questing for a while. Oh, big story moment happens at the end of this dungeon, then you do a bit of dungeoning, so on and so forth. And of course, Breath of the Wild, with the open world, it was like, okay, how do we do that? Because you can do the dungeons in any orders, and so you couldn't really do it the same way Wind Waker does it, where, well, you just couldn't. It's different because of its open worldness. I think I might be in the minority of people who liked Breath of the Wild story, because I liked Zelda as a character in that. I thought that she was quite interesting. Or beyond interesting, had a very satisfying arc, I guess. I like that I'm speaking about Breath of the Wild story for a minute there, just so I can contrast it to this one. I like that about Zelda, the way they use the memories in the last game, because it's kind of a tried and true video game trope of, because, I think I mentioned this at the end of the Omori playthrough, because you want the player to want what the character wants, mostly, so that they feel engaged to keep going, and it sort of drives the gameplay a bit. You want your character's goals to be understandable, so that's why a lot of protagonists in video games are very blank slatey and stuff. And so they, or if they want to make the protagonist a bit more complex, often what they'll do is they'll say, well, you forgot everything, so that the player gets to learn it at the same time the character does, and it doesn't feel like, what, character knew that the whole time, but I was still doing that stuff? That doesn't make sense. And so they did that in Breath of the Wild, but what I liked about it was that rather than it being like, it mostly wasn't, those memories weren't to be like, and now you know who Link is, he's a knight. That wasn't really as important as you got to see Zelda's, because you're trying to rescue Zelda, they tell you that up front, and they tell you that the kingdom fell 100 years ago and stuff. But now it's like you get to see Zelda's, like, psychological journey going from leading up to that point of why it was it wasn't just a failure of we let the kingdom down, a bunch of people died, oh no, that's sad. It was sad because she had been told all her life she was destined for this. She felt like she wasn't, and so she was like, I'm gonna go try and do all the robot stuff because that's something I'm actually good at. I don't feel like the destiny isn't responding to me when I'm trying my hardest to reach it, so clearly it's the wrong destiny. And then her father, trying to motivate her, was like, you'll be a failure if you don't do the powers, and then she couldn't do them, and then he died and everyone else died, and so now you have that journey of like, not only is this a destiny she's sort of failed to meet, but she's personally a failure to her father and to the people around her for that, and because her father tried to motivate her in sort of the wrong way. And so then she's like this very insecure character who has a lot of self-bolstering to do. And so it's not just, save the kingdom and help Zelda beat Ganon because, it would be bad if people died, but it's like then to get that like retribution for her what she feels is her sort of past failure, and sort of gets to right that wrong. And that was a really motivating. Then when you get all the memories, you're like, hell yeah, I don't just want to save the Hyrule, I want Zelda to be vindicated in the eyes of her father, you know what I mean? Or I want her to feel that. And so that's why I liked her as a character, because the memories then motivated the plot even more, rather than just sort of explaining how things came to be. So the new characters, so they add, I thought there wasn't much going on with like Sidon and Riju and them in the previous game, because they had to introduce you to Sidon, Riju, Teba, and Yunobo, as well as Daruk, Mipha, Urbosa, and Rivali. So I kind of got it. It was like, yes, this is a very new Hyrule, unlike anything else we've seen, as they usually are. When we get a new Zelda game, we have to, like, there are some characters we know of Impa and what her general role is, even if it's a different person. We know of Link, we know of Zelda. But if you're bringing these new characters in, I get introducing 8 characters and giving them all fully fleshed arcs in this game, where there's very little storytelling outside of the memories is hard in Breath of the Wild. So I was like, I get it, they don't have much going on there, but they still, like, while I'm on that point of Breath of the Wild, though, the storytelling of the world being all decayed and stuff was also quite cool in that itself. That you got to sort of wander around and see destroyed villages and stuff, and sort of felt the impact of the calamity 100 years ago and stuff. Moving on finally to this game, I think I said this somewhere around the beginning after we took down the first dungeon. I very much appreciated that this game went for the big, dramatic, explosive, cinematic approach of storytelling a lot of the time. I loved Ganondorf in it. I'm so thankful they didn't just go with another sort of faceless Ganondorf ghost. Bringing him back for real and making him this horrifically evil and scary bastard was just so cool. And he looks awesome, his design is awesome, his script is awesome, everything's cool. I liked going for all the big moments of, oh no, he kills someone, and it's like, oh, the blood moon comes out behind him, and like the moment in the castle after we fought the Phantom Ganons, where he shows them, like he shows the four sages, like what will happen if you fail, and like they're all like crying and scared, and it like just all the emphasis made on these huge story beats. And then of course at the end, the big fight with two dragons, and but at the beginning when you counter Ganon, and then like Zelda gets sent back in time, you lose an arm, like all this dramatic stuff happens. They went for a lot more of these big, hard-hitting, like cool-looking story moments rather than like the sort of more intimate, like personal story that Zelda and Breath of the Wild had, I guess. And it was cool, and I loved Rauru and Sonia. They were cool new characters. Mineru was cool, and all the old sages were cool, and the new sages are cool. I didn't really find like a through line in the same way I did with Breath of the Wild. I thought they were sort of starting to do something with Rauru and sort of making, because he mentions at one point, I want to keep Ganon close, and I thought it was like, oh, they're gonna lead this into being him thinking he can control Ganon, and then he's gonna get sort of arrogant about it maybe because he's done this well thus far and he's managed to keep peace, and because and then sort of he gets a big head about it and thinks he's just that good at keeping the peace that Ganon's now chill or whatever. And it was going to be a sort of story, but more about Rauru, and we sort of see it through Zelda's eyes just because she's there, and she's the character we're closer to at that point. But then they sort of didn't, and then it was kind of like right after that one where he's like, let's keep getting close. There's another scene somewhere down the line where after he kills Sonia, he's all like, you shouldn't have been so proud, Rauru. And it's like, I didn't really see much of that. Like, you're telling me a lot of stuff about Rauru's character and the conflict between these bunch. But I didn't see much development go on with Zelda in the past, Rauru and Sonia at all, really, or Mineru, or any of those four, and then the four sages in the present. I was like, okay, now we've sort of introduced us to these four, and the four from the past in Breath of the Wild, and then the four champions from Breath of the Wild are sort of to rest now, and they're gone. We have these four characters, Tulin is Teba's descendant, and then, Yunobo, Riju, and Sidon we had already. And we're going to get really dig into their characters and sort of what stresses them out, kind of, and what makes them tick. And we got a bit of that with Sidon, because he lost Mipha, now he's got this sort of anxiety about losing his new bride-to-be, Yuna? What is her name? Yona. But because they want to keep the dungeons, like, they don't want to make them these huge interruptions. They want to make them so that you could get in and out and do them in like a few hours. And to get back to the open world thing, because that's really what the Breath of the Wild their strong suit is. They kind of resolve their problems quickly. Like, it's like, I'm worried about losing Yona. It's like, don't be. And he's like, all right. And it kind of, so it sort of, it's like they're starting an arc and it kind of just falls flat. And again with Riju, I like that they've developed a bit from the previous game, where before Riju was all like, sorry, Link, I'm not confident as a leader yet. I can't, just go rewriting the decrees that you're allowed in, so you're gonna have to keep disguised here. But now that she's, like, fought a giant camel and is a total badass, even more than she was in the last game now, she's got a bit more confidence. She's like, nah, you're a friend, like, you can come and go. And so I like those little details. But again, like, the arcs it feels like each of them has an arc that kind of starts and then is resolved quickly enough that it almost feels like it didn't have much of a point. Again, with Tulin, he goes off by himself is the first thing you see of him. He's all like, I can do it, I'm gonna go see it myself. And then he gets his bow stolen and he's like, rats, maybe I shouldn't go by myself. Teamwork is important. And that happens in the span of like 15 minutes. And Yunobo's possessed for half of it, so it's kind of like, I'm not even sure I know what his deal was supposed to be. They kind of started to feel like they had a bit more character and there was a bit more emotion and drive there at the end when you had all four of them, and there were a few scenes where Link and he and them were together, and they got a lot more chance to sort of speak and interact with one another. And I kind of wish they had carried like if that had happened earlier in the story, maybe I would have been a bit more invested in them going forward. That said, I still love them all as characters. Like they're, in terms of like their design, their personalities, and like their fighting styles, all that, they were still very cool characters, which is why I wanted a bit more of them from them story-wise. Like I felt kind of like, I know it's only been like a few weeks or whatever since Link and Zelda fell underground and all these phenomena have happened, so why does it feel like I have to introduce myself to every kingdom all over again when I already did all that in Breath of the Wild? And it feels like I should be sort of better known here, and we could get all together and solve these things earlier, kind of thing. And then that would give the characters more time to spend together as a unit. But I get it; they were more interested in telling the sage's story wasn't as important in Ocarina of Time, for instance. Like each of them had a bit of a thing, but again, it was kind of like that where there was a bit of an arc, and then it's kind of like, okay, we need to move on to the next dungeon, wrap this up. So fair enough. It's not like I was, overwhelmingly disappointed with that. I was a bit more disappointed in the memories story, because maybe I just need to read them, watch them again or something. But my feeling is kind of that this is 18 memories for something that could be told in 1 or 2. Let me just work through it here. Zelda, Sonia, and Rauru meet. These two are basically the same. Like it's like she wakes up and they introduce themselves. And then she's like, I'm back in time. So it's basically, these two could be conflated. Mineru brings up the draconification thing. I guess I did like that about Zelda's character, that since she's grown a lot since the last game, and she was able to make peace with the fact that she ostensibly messed up, Like she was like, I can no longer hear the sword's voice, but I'm okay with that because I don't have to live up to the expectations that everyone's foisting upon me. I can just do what I can, and that's good enough. So she's a little more confident in this game. And so I like that her bravery really shines in this game, and when she chooses to draconify herself, I think that was a cool moment. I kind of wish they'd spent more time toying with her deliberation on that. Like, do I have the guts to do this? Is it worth it? But then it's sort of her faith in Link kind of bolsters her and everything, and that was kind of cool. But like these first, because these two aren't really, they're sort of like a bit of extra, because the Master Sword's power one is also sort of with the Mineru's Council one. It's about the dragon and the draconification and that what that will do to the sword. This is of course the opening cutscene, so it's not a memory really in that same way. I think you could have done memory 1, 3, 4, and 5 could have all been the same kind of, like they could have compressed all that information into one probably. Here we see Ganon tries to attack, and then he's like, all right, sorry about that. Let's be cool. That probably could have been one. This one where Sonia is sort of talking to Zelda, and she kind of, you get to see her kindness really sparkle there, and then she and Zelda kind of connect a bit, and you get to understand how she's sort of teaching her about the time travel powers, and that maybe could have even been part of this whole 1, 3, 4, and 5 thing. And then after the show of fealty, and it feels like they're going to start sort of brewing this tension between Ganondorf and Rauru, they immediately kill Sonia, and he's the Demon King now. And then Rauru amasses an army to fight him for real, because it's clear peace is not an option as much as he thought it was. That could all be like one, these 3 here probably. Zelda deciding it's time to do, she gets the Master Sword back, she brings it to Mineru and is like, hey, how do we fix this? And she's like, the only way would be a dragon. And she goes and is like, okay, I'm gonna go be a dragon then. These 4 could probably all be one kind of thing. Like, it feels like there could be about a quarter of the memories. And it was a bit weird that at the end of every main dungeon, they told you all this stuff again about, well, it wasn't even all the stuff. All they said basically was, Rauru got us all together, went to fight the Demon King, he got killed, but he sealed him away, and then Zelda told me to help you. They all 4 say that, but it takes way longer. And also I felt like there were a lot of instances where characters would like ask, I wonder where Zelda is, we still need to do this person, when Link already knew well and good that she was the dragon. And it was like, I get that maybe that would be hard to hear, but then he also just tells some people and not others, and it's like, we spend a lot of time in this deliberation, in this search, when it feels like the story would have moved along faster, we would have gotten to more interesting dramatic beats if each of the memories feels like there's a question and then it gives you an answer. It's like, where's Zelda? She's back in time. What happened to the Master? She got it, turned into a dragon. How did Ganondorf know all of them? He was a neighbor, he attacked them, swore fealty, and then immediately betrayed them. But it feels like it gets drawn out and like it's trying to tell something more when it doesn't feel like there is anything more to tell. And I kind of felt like, I just feel like I'm missing something. Like, I feel like I'm missing 6 or 7 other memories that broaden Rauru and Sonia's story and Zelda's sort of story in the past. So I think that was about all the points I had there about the story. My final thought, though, was that, man, I loved when they went super cinematic with it. The scene of Ganondorf when he took over before, and he uses that to kind of get under the new champion's skin, the sage's skins. And then the scene where you first see him kill Sonia and then become the Demon King, and like his hair is flowing in front of the moon. Like, the cinematics in this were so kicked up from Breath of the Wild, which makes sense because Breath of the Wild was sort of supposed to be kind of very sort of solemn, and not solemn exactly, but the world's supposed to be feel kind of quiet and empty and like the story is already over, because it kind of is. The most important parts of it happened with Zelda and you, and then Calamity Ganon way back when. So it makes sense that they kicked up the dramatics a notch, and I loved it whenever they did. Even if this game didn't make me feel as much, period, as Breath of the Wild, it got all my adrenaline pumping, and I love that about it. The scene where he orders all the Moldugas at them, and then like Rauru like shoots a laser beam out of his face and takes them all out. Awesome, right? Awesome. So I think that's all I have to say about the story. So that would be where I would wrap up, except I've got a whole bunch of notes here, so I'm just going to go quickly through them. These are not sorted by category anymore. These are just my thoughts from the game as we were playing it. I'm going to go back to page 1 and just look for all the ones I've marked with for end review. Some of them I might have covered already. Oh yeah, so like I got into this a bit way more in part 0. I appreciate that they still let you rush straight to the end more or less. In this game, like they did in Breath of the Wild. I think that was one of the best things about Breath of the Wild, is that you prepare as much as you want, and then you go fight the last boss. So if you're like me and you're like, I want to see if I can handle it with a stick, you go do that. And you could in this game as well. They made it a little more awkward in that the underground way to traverse to there is a little hard to scry. There are certain things you need before fighting each boss, like the Muktarok requires that you have something water-based. So since I didn't realize at that point that opals could be used for that, I went around for like 6 hours fighting Splash Fruit. I never want to see a Splash Fruit again. The spirit construct that you fight, the spirit temple construct thing that you fight, the seized construct, that is, that you fight, if you don't have the robot, the only way to knock it into the electric fence is to hit it with a staggering blow. So either the spin strike from a one-hander, the last hit of a one-hander, the last hit of a spear, or the last hit of the club combo, like the great hit weapon. The second hit is a launcher. But of course I didn't know that at all, so I was very confused about that. And it's not like I get you're playing the game sort of wrong there by skipping it that way, but I felt like Breath of the Wild was a bit more like, all right, well, if you think you're good enough, then here's just a bunch of really hard fights that are not hard to understand. Whereas with that, it was like, if I hadn't played the game before, I wouldn't know. Like in Breath of the Wild, it's like, if I hadn't played the game before, if I'm skilled enough at it, like if I have enough experience with action games, I can still get through it. But just by learning the patterns of the bosses and stuff. There was no point at which it was like, you must have this particular item to do this, like it was with the Muktarok. It wasn't clear to me at all that I could knock this 30-foot robot back with a stick, as long as I spun with it. So it was a little less friendly to that rush straight to Ganon thing in this game, but it was still possible, so I appreciate that. I just feel like I get that you're playing it wrong and you would normally get into that in fight those fights in different circumstances, but it was like, I feel like they must know. I mean, if they let it as an option, they must know that a lot of people really liked that about Breath of the Wild, that was an option. So to make it sort of more awkward without adding difficulty, just being something that you wouldn't know to do, was a little bit of a weird choice, I felt. Like, if you're going to make it that you need to hit the Muktarok with water, add some Splash Fruit around the side of the arena, you know? Like some little trees that drop them. Or if for the Seas construct, like drop a bunch of two-handers that do bad damage, but just to indicate to you, oh, you want to be knocking these back. Like knock the monster back kind of thing. Or like weapons with springs on, like leave a weapon with a spring on it at the side of the arena kind of thing. Because that way it's like, because I think a lot of the player base is like me, who wanted to do it that way right off the bat, just go right to Ganons and fight the horde of all enemies back to back. Because it's very fun that way, I would say. Just like the slightest bit of hint so that the only options weren't look it up or go play through the rest of the game first kind of thing. Like there was a point in the middle there where I was seriously, in part 0, where I was seriously considering just sprinting through all the main story dungeons. Just because that would be an easier way to get rid of those bosses from that sequence of the fight, and that would have been really lame to spoil the surprise about all the dungeons that way. But that's a pretty minor complaint because, again, you're not really meant to play it that way. But then also, this game had a few awkward hitboxes here and there, which is what this note was in the book here. I have a timestamp for me of where to find one. But it reminded me that there were a few hitboxes in part 0 that were just kind of silly, and it was the thing of like, this is sort of the thing that rubs me a tiny bit the wrong way about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's attitude to growth in terms of like hearts and stuff. And it was a bit helped in this game because the final boss fight is so dramatic and like epic, and has with the Demon King's army, and then the phase 1 again and phase 2 again and then the Dragon Ganon. That was really awesome and cool. So it's a bit diminished, but it was still pretty easy at this point in the game when we have this many hearts and this many weapons. So it's like, if I don't want the last boss to be that easy and like kind of sort of an anticlimax in that sense. It wasn't any anticlimax visually. It was still stunning the second time, but it was a little less interesting to fight him here when we had all this gear to use against him. So it was like, okay, but then if I play it right at the beginning of the game, it was almost a little too hard. Just not just because of all the, like, the actual fights, but because of the little things where an enemy would swing and they would be, like, 3 feet away from you with no chance of hitting you, but it would kill you in one hit, and it would be like, well, that's one of the 4 hits I can take for this slew of, like, 13 boss fights. So, because of which, again, those little design flaws, I would call them, are not a big deal at this point in the game, because you have so many hearts that it's like, if someone hits you with something that shouldn't really hit you, whatever. But back then, if you're at that point in the game, it's like, I want this to be a challenge, which is why I'm going in with 3 hearts, but then if it's going to do stupid stuff like that, it's just frustrating. So it's like there's some weird balancing act I have to play where to make the boss fight optimal, to be the most fun to play, I would have to start it after having done like 1 or 2 dungeons when I've got like 10 hearts, so that one little errant twitch from a boss bokoblin that hits me when it shouldn't doesn't set me back a half hour, but also so that it's not so easy that I can just take down the second phase of Ganon with tomatoes and my 5-shot stupid powerful Lionel bow kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I think, again, that's another thing that's very much a personal taste thing of, like, for me, I either find the last boss in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is obnoxiously hard because of the wrong reasons, or obnoxiously easy because of the wrong reasons. And there's no perfect guidepost to know when to do the last boss, but also it would have been bad for the playthrough if I had done the last boss after the first dungeon anyway. Nevertheless, that's a pretty, even though I talked for a long time about it, it's a pretty minor complaint. Because I like being able to do the last boss off the bat, but it's not everything in this game for me, I wouldn't say. I have written here in all caps, do not forget to throw tomatoes at Ganondorf. Mission accomplished. Oh yeah, sometimes little finer points of the melee combat are a little obnoxious. Like when I did it even in that Phantom Ganon fight, you'll get a flurry rush and Link will just miss every single hit, and it's like, why? You're right there, just hit him? Like what, how is this my fault at all? And now and again, like, there'll be an awkward hitbox where like the Gleeok heads, when you're stabbing them, it's like, you'll hit it straight in the head, and it'll be like, nah, I think that was more like the torso. No extra damage for you. And it's like, but I'm looking at the head, I'm like targeting the head, and I'm standing right in front of the head. Little things, though, not horribly troubling. I have an end review note here that says maybe the side quest should have had some more creativity in their solutions in the same way as shrines? The shrines in the Hudson construction signs? I'm not sure exactly what I mean by that, so I won't pursue it. Like, I'm thinking about it now, and I don't think there are many side quests where I can think of multiple ways to do it that would have made it better. I think the side quests are mostly there to be like, do this thing this way, and, you know, like, if you have this, gather these resources this way, so on and so forth. This note says, there's an expletive I won't use, but there's nothing in the world like fighting Colgera mid-skydive with the Dragon Roost Island theme kicking up. I think I covered that already. It was awesome. Oh yeah, this is a weird one. I didn't think about it much in Breath of the Wild, but it's hitting me more in this game. Link doesn't get an instrument in this one. There's no music playing at any point. Which is, they haven't done it in, the last big 3D Zelda was Skyward, and I guess the harp kind of sucked in that, but it still was there. And it's not like it's a big flaw or anything, I just thought it was interesting to note. That and, like, somersaulting, those are, like, the 2 main 3D Zelda things that we don't have in this game. But I don't really see a point where an instrument would have helped in this game, so it remains an interesting factoid. All right, I then followed up with it. It makes some sense because he's not really, like, a traveling bard folk hero in this one as much as he's, like, you know, he's a knight. And on that point, by the way, I love that they leaned into Ganondorf as this, like, evil warlock king, and, like, he uses like illusory magic to mess with people and stuff. That was cool. One of the things, I think, did I maybe mention this already a little bit? It felt like I was less encouraged to do the building with vehicles and stuff earlier on in the game because materials were difficult to come by. You had to go to Sky Islands, but Sky Islands are hard to traverse without a flying device and without much stamina. And you needed zonite charges anyway, so you need to have fought a bunch of robots. They left a lot of materials around for you in the world. I kind of felt like it would be neat if you could use, like, if you could buy capsules to pick those up with and put them in your inventory. And ditto for other building materials, like if you could use that with logs, because otherwise it does occasionally become a little bit of a hassle to, early on at least, to build devices you want and to like build. Like, you really have to, I guess it encourages you to use what's at hand a bit more, but I would have probably been more into the building and stuff if I was able to see a monster wheel in the ground, and instead of being able to get a renewable supply of those only by finding one of these capsules up top side that gives you them, if I could just pick up that wheel and be like, oh, I wonder if I'll use that for a device later. But while I'm mentioning that, I like that you could get them from chests, and I think the chests in this game overall were better than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, it was basically always either a bit of money, some kind of arrow, or a weapon, and you usually were full on the weapons, and the money was a little easier to come by in that game anyway. I like that in this game you could get elixirs, you could get zonite devices, you could get materials, you could get weapons, you could get shields. Like, there was better variety in rewards from chests in this game for sure. Not to mention some of them giving you Sage's Wills and some of them giving you old maps in the sky, so you had enhanced exploration for that reason. Some elements are maybe a little less satisfying because the final confrontation with Ganon is a little less omnipotent than in Breath of the Wild. I see what I meant there, but having done the whole thing now, I sort of agree, because, like, in Breath of the Wild, it's like you see the castle there, evil, and it's like you can see it from anywhere, and it's just that looming sense of, like, I know once I'm ready, I gotta go over there, whereas in this game, it's because you don't know where Ganon is, even though you might guess that he's still below Hyrule Castle, because that's where he was at the beginning of the game. You get a little bit less of that, like, oh, when it's all over, I'm going there, kind of vibe. But it's still, I don't know, I feel like you still feel his influence in the rest of the world, because, like, the Gloom Hands are everywhere. They're a cool addition that kind of scares you. Oh yeah, I think I didn't mention this in the review yet, but I love that big monsters are roaming around the place, like Gleeox and the bosses start spawning in the depths once you beat them, and then the Gloom Hands. I like that they had a lot more roaming, like huge bosses. Made the world feel a bit more treacherous when you're out of a town. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it was like, you'll see the odd Hinox, but they're not that tough. Yes, another note here. Bears noting that rushing all the dungeons and shrines like this isn't really how you're meant to play the game. You're meant to sort of explore it and experience it inch by inch, and go where your curiosity is piqued and walk over there, investigate that. And I think that's probably why the caves didn't work for me quite as well in this playthrough. I was like, all right, I'm gonna just find every single one that I might have a shrine in it and rush to the end of it, rather than like wandering around and like stumbling into one day and being like, oh, there's a cave here, and then finding a shrine at the end and be like, oh, that's so cool. That was kind of how you're meant to find the caves, I think. But I appreciate that they gave you the cherry blossoms, so that if you were like me and you were just trying to get them all, you could just find where they all were. But it would have been better. It would have been a more interesting experience to have been exploring in the woods one day looking for fruit or doing a side quest or something, and seeing a cave in the wall in the distance and being like, oh, that works. That's worth investigating later, rather than just being able to mark them all off the bat. But again, it's a thing where I don't know how to solve that, because it's good that they put that feature in with the cherry blossoms for people like me who are just trying to get to the damn shrines for this playthrough. Again, there are a number of problems here where it's like, it would have been better. This experience is hampered somewhat by being a YouTube playthrough. Enough about that. Oh yeah, here's a note. Zeldas are wont to reinterpret old elements from like the characters, the items, cultures, races. They love doing that, where like they like Breath of the Wild is a good example. This is like the second, I think, time of the Rito show up, and they're a little different this time. They're no longer look like they're just wearing beaks on their face. They're actual like bird people. They have like sort of a hunter society. They're good at archery. They love bringing back old elements and characters and sort of reusing them in a new way and expanding the legend. And on that note, I would love to see the Zonai and/or this version of Rauru and of course Queen Sonia to come back in future entries, because they were cool characters, but I think they were also cool character archetypes. I could see them being very, like the very compassionate king and queen duo who are sort of the ideal that the kingdom should be trying to uphold, because they were sort of the ones who made it. That's cool, and the whole race of Zonai were cool, and I could totally see them coming back, and I would totally love that in another Zelda game, another Zelda world beyond this Hyrule. Oh yeah, one little detail. I like the flower motif. I like that Zelda's got the Silent Princesses and Sonia has the Sundelions. I'm not sure if there was more sort of narratively going on there, but it was cool that they each get their own little flower, and then that kind of has some weight in the world, because those flowers now grow in different places. So you can sort of feel that character's importance as you travel the world. It would have been kind of neat if there were Silent Princesses growing around all of the dragon tiers, because then it would be like a little hint for if you play Breath of the Wild, you'd be like, oh, okay, so that dragon has something to do with Zelda kind of thing. But even still, the flower, them each having their own flower and that kind of being a thing that recurred was neat, because they didn't mention it so much in this game as much as they did in Breath of the Wild with the Silent Princess, but it was a cool thing anyway. I don't know if it had the same representation of everything in the same way the Silent Princess did in Breath of the Wild for Zelda, because it's kind of representative of the fruits of her research, so it's showing that she wasn't wrong to be pursuing the things she felt she was good at back then, now that you see the Silent Princess are growing because she managed to, repopulate them. And I think that's all the end review notes I had here. Oh boy, sorry, I know it was tiring for you to listen to, but it was also tiring for me to talk for like 2 hours straight. I had so much to say about this game. You're right there, Link. You've been squatting like that for a very long time. This is a fabulous game. I, again, am an absolute marvel of just computer engineering and computer science. A wonderful world. Had some lovely gameplay moments, some lovely story moments. Like, lots of It certainly wasn't perfect for me, but it had many very, very, like, shining and unforgettable moments. And it was such a joy to hop into this game and record every day and just kind of get lost and be like, okay, we're gonna go do these try-ins, but I might get distracted by some other stuff along the way, kind of thing. And this game and Breath of the Wild are just so good at that. They're so good at giving you that many things to do, but also making you want to do them because, you know, the little Korok, it's a little 40-second diversion. I go over here and do a little thing and have a look around because this looks suspicious. But it can lead to, you know, more inventory space in the great scheme of things. So you're always looking for little ways that the things in your environment can help you, and ways you can help them. And of course, I loved Purah, I loved Rauru, I loved Sonia, I loved Riju, I loved Tulin. All the characters were super cool. I love Link in this game and Breath of the Wild. I love that he's got a bit of sass to him in the little dialogue options you can give to people. It was cool to see characters like Paya and Impa come back from the previous game. I had a wonderful time. So, with that finished, I recently had episode 16 of Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, where I said it was the end, and really we have another episode to go after that, so sorry that this is a bit confusing, but the playthrough schedule now changes again! It now goes Fire Emblem Three Houses are Verdant Wind Assassins only run, Kid Icarus Uprising, Fire Emblem Three Houses are Verdant Wind Assassins only run, and Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice. Yes, not long after we've finished Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories and begun Kid Icarus Uprising, we have now finished Tears of the Kingdom, and so it is moving on to Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice now. Sorry for the timeline being all a little confusing these past few days, since I've beat Kingdom Hearts and this game so close together, and that then it turned out I hadn't really beat Kingdom Hearts because there was still stuff I still needed to do, and I messed it up. But at least now we can sort of put that we get what's going on now, and this is the playthrough order as you see it on screen. But don't go anywhere after that, because mere minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, I ended the poll. While I was having this conversation with you, the poll for what game we'd be playing after Spirit of Justice ended. Overwhelmingly in favor of 100%ing Wii Sports. What a weird playthrough that's gonna be, but so much fun as well. Something I've never done. I barely even played the first Wii Sports that much. I did a bit of the bowling and the boxing at one time, but Wii Sports Resort is really the one I'm familiar with, so it's gonna be a fun and unusual learning experience for us, but mostly it's gonna be fun. So 3 has Verdant Wind Assassins has a double slot, and then Kid Icarus Uprising and the Spirit of Justice after that, and after all that, Wii Sports Resort, just to sum up. But that is all for now, so I think it's time for us to bid farewell to Greater Hyrule for the time being. An absolute friggin' joy, though it was. We'll be back sometime for the EX playthrough where we 100% all the Koroks and side quests, Hylia help us, and all that good stuff, when it gets voted on in a Zelda poll sometime in the future. But for now, since we've beaten this game just now, I actually have to go set up another poll on what game we're going to play after we start Wii Sports. So that is all for me for now. Thank you so very much for coming around to this video, and I can't believe it if you made this far through this 2-hour-long review. I'm sorry, I don't like to leave these videos with anything I still wanted to say about the game, because I feel like these games that we play on the channel mean a lot to me. They're what I spend a lot of my life doing now, and so I like to give them their due attention and sort of immerse myself in talking about just them for as long as I have things to say about them, I guess. Well, no, I've got more to say about this game than I can say, I guess, but you know, for the, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. As much as it's necessary to get across my overall feelings on it anyway. Thank you so much for coming around to this episode and this playthrough, if you did. Longest playthrough on our channel thus far, and boy heckin' howdy what it came. Admiral's gonna be out of here now. Hopefully I'll see you around. Peace! Bye! See you later. Arrivederci. Ciao. Later, alligator. Bye-bye. Be seeing ya. Goodbye. Let's try this one for a bit. We'll see how we like it in the next few battles. And everyone who's out of our house, I'll just leave them in their evening wear, I think. Petra is in our house. Oh, it looks so good. Earrings are cool. We can go with this. I mean, this does sort of fit with the assassin vibe and the way it's sort of pared back and all. This. You know, Linky, this is nice. Linky?